Hey guys, and welcome back to Garden of K-Land. I feel like everybody has a favorite genus of plant, or at least one they're constantly drawn to. Mine happens to be Philodendron. I'd love to tell you why Philodendron is my favorite, but I can't really put a finger on it. Maybe because there are so many reasons why I love Philodendron. Who knows? As of today, I have about 59 different species of Philodendron, with 5 of them on their way to me in the mail right now. I think I have a problem. I'm not gonna show them all to you in one video because I don't have 100 days to sit here and record that. So I'm gonna get as many in today as I can and then kind of sprinkle them about in future videos. But before we get started, hi, I'm Kayla and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome, and be sure to subscribe if plants are your vibe. Now let's look at some philodendrons. Figured I'd get some of the larger ones out the way now. This is my philodendron fuzzy petiole that I consider to be a classic amongst my collection. Most people enjoy this plant because it has those fuzzy petioles, but I actually like this plant for its beautiful leaves. They're semi-heart shaped, but they're very textured and pillowy, and that's my favorite part about this plant. And the deep green color really just highlights that texture a whole lot more. I could personally do without the fuzzy petioles on it because they're not even that fuzzy. I've seen way better fuzzy petioles. But this leaf, you guys, number one, look how big it is. It is so gorgeous. I love it so much. And I really don't even pay attention to the petioles on it anymore. I have struggled with this plant this year more than I care to admit, but I think putting it out this summer in the shade will really do it some good, especially since it loves that high humidity that I can hardly keep up with indoors. I'll probably have to give it a much larger trellis, but I'm happy to oblige. If it means that I can get this even bigger and beautiful without having to do the actual work myself. Even with this being indoors this winter and, like I said, kind of struggling, it still pushes out 2 leaves at a time, sometimes even 3. I think the biggest problem that I'm gonna end up having with this is actually bringing it back in during the summer because it's already really big now. If I have it outside all summer long, it's going to get a whole lot bigger, I hope at least, and I don't know, I'll worry about that when the time comes. The African Fantasy is a hybrid of the Philodendron Sellum and Goldii, both of which I know have been reclassified and are no longer Philodendron, but for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna refer to them as such. Just thought I would throw that out there because the plant police are gonna come for me if I don't. Both the Sellum and the Goldii are very easygoing, so this one has been very easygoing as well and very rewarding, if I must say so myself. I did lose this leaf. Well, I didn't really lose it, but it's not, this leaf was a casualty of a new environment, but that's okay because then it pushed out this leaf, as I mentioned before, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I'm really excited about this plant. It does grow really slowly, but I mean, it must take forever for a leaf of this size to finally pop out, right? I've also noticed that all of the leaves come out a little bit differently, and well, I don't have a whole lot to compare it to because it only has like 2.5 leaves on it, but you have this leaf here. So of course, big, kind of serrated, goes in this circular motion here at the top that slightly overlaps. And then you have this one that looks like it's going to be like a lot more narrow in the front, still rounded at the top, but a lot more narrow. And I don't know, it just doesn't look as wide as this leaf. Maybe because it's not done fully hardening off. Kind of like how no 2 snowflakes are the same, but then they're both snowflakes. It's a weird comparison, I know, but somebody out there gets my drift. I really just treasure this plant, not because of how amazing I think it is, but also because I got it from a really good friend for my birthday, and I don't know, I'm really happy to have it. I do struggle with the amount of space that it actually takes up, so I am gonna end up putting it outside during the summer, but you know, even bringing it back in, it's gonna take up even more space, ideally. So I am completely dedicated to keeping this plant. I don't care how much space it takes up, if I gotta sleep in the closet to keep this, I will. So let me know what you guys think about this, and if anyone has it, I'd love to see a really mature one that one of you has. And just, yeah, I'm gonna keep you guys updated on how it's doing. I love a long leaf and I love a textured leaf. And in this next plant, I get to have both. This is my Philodendron Campii Lynette. A very interesting one, to say the least. I'm not a big fan of upright, self-heading type of philodendrons, but when I saw these gorgeous ribbed leaves, I couldn't resist it. So, and it's a very robust plant. I don't know if all of them are like that or if it's just because there are several plants in this one pot, but I am so happy with how long the leaves are starting to get now. With all of the definition that this plant has, I can't wait to see it reach its fullest potential. It's been really easy to care for too. I literally just let it dry out completely and then water it. I splash a little bit of fertilizer in it now and again, and it's really doing great. And the fact that it's so well behaved stands out to me even more because I repotted this immediately after I bought it and brought it home. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did because like that's what I wanted to do. And it didn't struggle a bit. I can't say the same for all of my philodendron, but this one definitely took well to it. And I knew at that moment, this, like, we're gonna vibe. We're gonna be best friends. If you have the space for a plant like this, I highly recommend it. It's on my top 10 easiest philodendron list, and you definitely won't be disappointed. I know I said I don't really like upright or self-heading philodendrons, but I'm starting to wonder, like, is that really true? Because going through, I had plenty of self-heading and upright philodendrons that do not climb at all. So clearly I just want attention or something. This is my Philodendron Red Heart. And it's a philodendron that I knew and still know very little about, but I did know that I had to have it. The leaves on it are really bizarre and striking, and they have these really vibrant red centers that mine doesn't really have yet because I guess it's just not mature enough yet. But they do come in really red, and I love that. I also love how it's somewhat compacted, so even as they continue to grow, they still kind of are contained, and they're really low maintenance. They don't even like too much water, so you really have to let them dry out completely. Because this plant likes to be on the drier side, it really does cause a little problem for me, and that is that the plant's leaves are really weird. So as they're unfurling, and if there's not enough humidity, then they come out kind of wonky, like kind of reminds me of like how the pink princess leaves come out. Just this one just is completely shredded. So this newer leaf, I actually had to wrap a paper towel around for a day or two, and it came out just fine, or it's coming out just fine. So I think that I'm going to actually put this on my patio, on the patio table outside during the summertime, so that it doesn't hold on to water as much, but the humidity will be nice and high for it. When I got this from my local nursery, it was in the rare plant section, so I was like, well, I guess it is rare because I haven't really seen it. So if you guys have seen one of these, or if you have one, let me know. What are your thoughts on it? Is it low maintenance for you too? It's been pretty good for me so far. I'm willing to bet as the growing season kind of progresses, I will start seeing a few more appearances of this plant because it really is a beauty. I do hope more people get it, mainly because I want to know more about it. It is a hybrid of something, but I'm unable to find out what it's a hybrid of. I don't know why, but knowing what the parents of a hybrid plant are really helps me to kind of tune in to the care for it. So if you do know what it's a hybrid of, just kindly let me know in the comment section down below, and it will be greatly appreciated. But for now, I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing, and in about 6 more weeks, I can go ahead and put it outside. There are a lot of plants out there that I find to be very underrated. And in my opinion, this next one falls right into that category. Oh my gosh. And as I was pulling it out, this happened. And I definitely just completely snapped a leaf off of my Ruby Juvenile that has already been struggling. Like, look at this. I'm having a really hard time getting over that right now. This is my Philodendron Snowdrift that just murdered a leaf on one of my other plants. Actually, it was me who murdered it because I was being lazy, and instead of like moving plants out the way, I was trying to pull this up over it. Anywho, yes, my Philodendron Snowdrift, definitely something that I consider to be underrated. Absolutely gorgeous. I was really fortunate and got it pretty big for my birthday. And the pole that I have in it is actually pretty pretentious because look, it's too tall. but I anticipate that this plant will use every inch of this pole at some point, so it's better to just have it in there now. The leaves on the Snowdrift emerge this creamy white color and then eventually harden off to a minty green with little specks and sometimes whole sections of deep green. This plant is absolutely mesmerizing. I mean, I could stare at this plant all day. It's not fussy about care either. This is another one that I let completely dry out before watering it again. And when the new leaves are emerging, there is a little tinge of pink in there as well. The only thing I struggle with is getting it in and out of its spot to water it and keeping the leaves dust free. I'd also love to see a little bit more of that dark green speckling, but even without it, I am genuinely pleased with how well this plant has been doing. Okay, so moving on, what happened to these? The Philodendron Gloriosum was the it plant for a while, and now I just kind of hear crickets. I even find myself talking about it a little less these days. And it's not like it got any less beautiful, so what gives? The heart-shaped velvety foliage on this plant is breathtaking, especially with the prominent white veining down the entire plant. Oh my gosh, you guys. It is on the fussier end, which is why I've had to keep it in LECA. The spider mites just would not stop. And I've had this plant for about 2 years. It would be a whole lot better and bigger, I think, if it didn't struggle so much there in the beginning. I've probably lost about 3 or 4 leaves during the entire 2 years that I've owned this plant. But y'all, my mom has one, and even though it's maybe got like 4 leaves on it, the leaves are like, I gotta see if I can find a video. And hers actually flowered. I was so sick. I was so sick because now she's gonna think she's better than me. But no, hers is in a really good spot and it receives like perfect lighting. I've been trying to copycat it for years, but I can't. I've tried and I just can't. Ooh, fresh haircut. Ooh-wee. You still don't got no teeth in your mouth, but you know, it is what it is. I like your haircut. Oh my goodness. So anyway, my mom's Gloriosum is so much better than mine. Do you think she would notice if I switched them? Probably not, right? But seriously, the Gloriosum grows pretty slowly, at least in my care. So I'm just being really patient with it. I do constantly have to check this plant to make sure we don't have another pest infestation. And lately it's been doing really good. So I think the LECA is kind of to blame for that. I would love to see this plant flower just because it would give me so much validation. I am aware that the Gloriosum is a crawler and not a climber, and I do have it in this round pot, but for right now it's fitting in this round pot and it's fine. However, I am going to have to eventually get it kind of like a long rectangular pot. And for right now, I'm just gonna continue to love on it. My McDowell also struggled for a little while with pests that I have since gotten under control, I think. I hope. And this is a hybrid of the Gloriosum that you just saw and the Philodendron postazanum. The veining from the Gloriosum and the texture from the postazanum really do make this quite a pleasant hybrid in my opinion. And as you see here, I actually have mine on a moss pole. Even though these are crawlers, I've been training mine to go upward instead of out. And I've struggled to really get this one to size up. And I'm now wondering if that has anything to do with the fact that I have it climbing up a moss pole. There are actually 2 plants in this pot. So I think I'm going to do a little experiment by taking the baby plant out of here and just letting it grow in its natural grow pattern and seeing if the leaves come out a little bit bigger. I also got a really good grow light recently, another grow light recently, that I'm hoping will kind of help with this one. But I just love the pillowy texture on these leaves. And I mean, they're clearly the star of the show. I would just really love for them to size up and have those massive leaves that I know these are capable of having because they're just too amazing to not be really big. The growth rate is moderate but really consistent, very steady. And I have it on top of this plant shelf here in my bedroom. And as I mentioned before, it struggled with pests for a little while, so I did lose a few leaves with that. Even though these really long petioles make it a little bit hard to contain this plant, I think that the leaves make it worth the real estate that it's taking up on my shelf right now. And I really look forward to seeing what it's gonna do this summer. The next plant has so many varieties and I literally feel like I have to have every one of them. The Philodendron Florida. The possibilities are endless. I've had the Philodendron Florida green for a really long time, but all of my other Philodendron Floridas are kind of in a juvenile state. The one that I've been really impressed with lately is the Philodendron Florida Bronze. When I first got this, I thought that I was getting ripped off, but it ended up being one of the best plant purchases I ever made because I am so obsessed with this plant now. I believe this one is a hybrid with the Black Cardinal, and so that gives it like this really dark bronze color, and the leaves come in this coppery red. I am just obsessed with it. The shape of the leaves, at least right now, kind of remind me of the Yopii, but the main thing that I love about this plant is hands down the color of the leaves. I clearly need some kind of support for this, or I will at least need some soon, but this one is my absolute favorite. I already have support in here. This is the Philodendron Florida Albo Mint. It's a lot of names there, and I got it from my husband for Christmas, so I really treasure this plant. It's still very, very juvenile right now, but the growth has been steady and consistent, and it's healthy, and I'm so happy with it so far. And it's got little roots coming in. It's really healthy. I baby it so much because I just can't bear the thought of something happening to this plant, and I'm really excited to see the colors on each new leaf that pops out. Like this one has this almost perfect half moon, and even in some of the very juvenile leaves you can see a lot of that mint popping out, and it's really amazing. I like the bronze a lot, but this one is definitely, you know, the one that I'm gonna save during a house fire. The next one is somewhat of a fan favorite, and it's one of my favorites too, but it's not one of my favorites to show because it is such a struggle getting it in and out of the place that I have it in. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna show y'all. And it's heavy too. Ta-da! It's really heavy. I'm just gonna put it on this chair so I don't have to hold it. Now you can't see the whole thing. This one is my Philodendron Bipennifolium aurea, and as you can see, it is a true crowd pleaser. I have actually propagated this one time and time again. It outgrows the moss poles so fast. So because it just keeps getting so big, I think I'm gonna put this outside for the summer. I know it kind of defeats the purpose. I'm gonna propagate it and just get it a lot fuller instead of letting it just continue to grow taller and taller. But I've gotta say, my favorite thing about this plant is definitely the color of the leaves. It's kind of hard to tell right now, but when they're first emerging, they are very bright. I also really love the shape of the leaves and how easy this is to care for. Even though it does get really big, it's really not that fussy about anything, humidity or even soil type. Like I have this in the most plain Jane soil and it hasn't fussed over it. And they also propagate really easily. The roots are very robust and thick. So one time my grandma was trying to get a piece of it. Well, I was trying to get her a piece of it, and I cut the wrong vine and completely cut off the lifeline of an entire system. And I just like kind of dug a hole in the soil and placed it down in there, and it's like it never happened. It's another one that's on my easy care philodendron list, and I think that if you have the space for this one, you definitely should have one. They grow really fast and climb really tall as well. Tell me your plant is struggling without telling me your plant is struggling. That seems to be the constant case with my Philodendron Mamei. I just love the silver that comes in on these leaves, but it's hard to enjoy it when the leaves keep coming out like this. So for such a long time, I thought it was a humidity thing. So I have this under a constant humidifier, and it still appears to struggle. I'm thinking maybe because I don't have the humidifier on enough, but humidity or not, this one kept getting spider mites no matter what I did. So this is another one that I have to constantly check up on. And because I've already lost 2 of them, as soon as I got this one, I went ahead and cut it in half and propagated another piece of it. And so far the baby is looking absolutely perfect. I have 2 little plants in sphagnum moss here, and they're doing really great. I keep the baby in my greenhouse cabinet, and it has never ever had an issue. And it isn't really old enough to have had issues yet, I guess, but I'm wondering if a cabinet may be the solution for the issues that I'm having with the mama. Mainly because the greenhouse cabinet is a constant 88%, and the pest issues are significantly lower in that cabinet because it's not as exposed. This one is pushing out a new leaf for me, and it doesn't look like it's having problems yet, but The spider mite thing, like I can't with the spider mites. It is a constant problem. I guarantee you that right now this plant has spider mites. So right now I'm done even talking about it. It had spider mites. At this point, I'm about to just give up. Not really, but where are they even coming from? You ever wonder that? Like, nothing else around you has spider mites, but you just can't get it together. Why? Why? What's the reason? Contrary to that though, my Philodendron green sky hort has been on nothing but its best behavior. And to have gotten it at such a large size, it is really impressing me due to the fact that it didn't really suffer any damage. The newest leaf is looking like it might be a little bit of a problem, but I will chalk that up to new environment shock and just be okay with that because the rest of the plant is thriving. I have so much to say about this plant, yet somehow it still leaves me completely speechless. The long, narrow leaves with this green vein down the center of it is just like chef's kiss, y'all. And it gets so big and the leaves look, just look at that. They look so good on the top of my shelf over here. I am gonna end up moving it though because I want it to sustain these big leaves. I don't want them to start coming out smaller. So I need to move it somewhere where I can give it a lot more light than it's getting where it's at. But I saw this in someone's Instagram picture like 2 years ago and I have been searching for one ever since. So when I saw that Ecuagenera had it, I snatched it up fast. I got it during a live sale and interestingly enough, I requested it and then they showed it and other people were like, oh yeah, do you have another one? Do you have another one? Do you have another one? Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, that's what I kind of did. I think that the green sky hort is a hybrid. It kind of gives you like Esmeraldans vibes with the texture and the long narrow leaves. But unfortunately, I can't find a whole lot of information on it. Probably because it's a newer cultivar, I'm guessing. Not much online other than like the bright and direct, well-draining soil, all the care tips and stuff, but I just would love to find out a lot more about this plant. My lack of knowledge definitely doesn't take away from how much I love this plant, but it would help me care for it a little bit better if I could find out more information on it. For right now, I have it in the aeroid mix that I use for most of my philodendron, and I just water it when it dries out most of the way. It's been doing okay with that so far. I've only fertilized it once since I had it, so I don't know how much of a difference that has made, but I am head over heels over this plant. The Philodendron Plowman is another one that's been impressing me lately. I was a bit weary of it at first. It just looked like one of the ones that was gonna give me issues. Surprisingly, it hasn't, but I did end up propagating it just in case, and the propagation is doing really well too. The Plowman is truly amazing. The silver in the leaves and the texture really do make it look almost fake, and the petioles are ruffled and flat, which is another cool feature that I love about this plant. It grows really fast too. Even before I put it under a grow light, it was popping out leaf after leaf, which is good, but also a problem because this one is a crawler, and so it is trying to escape the pot already. And I'll admit, I'm not really looking forward to repotting this because I have it in leca, and repotting my crawlers that are in semi-hydroponics kind of becomes a headache. So it is a good problem to have, just one that I'm not necessarily ready for. Here is the baby that I keep in soil, and it is also showing out new leaf here. It's pushing out a new leaf, it seems like every 2 weeks. And this one is growing a lot faster than the mother plant. So I'm wondering if soil isn't a better option for this plant, especially with it being a crawler. I think that this summer I'll go ahead and pot them up into the same pot and just get it over with, put them both in soil and put them in something for them to kind of crawl along. But overall, this plant is better than the Mamei, who keeps giving me problems, but I get that texture and that silver that I'm looking for without so much drama being involved. I never thought I would hear myself say this, but I am tired of talking. So that's gonna do it for today's video. You guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy planty content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.